The morning of Tuesday, September 11, 2001, began with a deceptive calm. In New York, the late summer air was crisp, skies perfectly clear. A severe clear, as pilots call it. On the streets of Manhattan, commuters poured into subway stations and office towers. In Washington, D.C., government staffers prepared for a typical day of hearings and briefings. Children across the country shuffled into classrooms, unaware that history was about to be written in fire and dust. But in the skies above the northeastern United States, 4 commercial flights were about to be used as weapons. How the plan unfolded. The attackers, 19 men associated with Al-Qaeda, had boarded 4 flights that morning, armed with small blades. They had chosen cross-country flights, departing Boston, Newark, and Washington because they carried maximum fuel loads, turning them into highly dangerous objects. American Airlines Flight 11 departed Boston at 7:59 a.m. bound for Los Angeles, with 92 people on board. United Airlines Flight 175 departed Boston at 8:14 a.m., also bound for Los Angeles, with 65 people on board. American Airlines Flight 77 left Washington Dulles at 8:20 a.m. for Los Angeles, carrying 64 people. United Airlines Flight 93 took off from Newark at 8:42 a.m. en route to San Francisco, with 44 on board. None of these planes would reach their destinations. The timeline of September 11th. 8:46 a.m. The first impact. American Airlines Flight 11 struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center between the 93rd and 99th floors. The impact killed everyone on board instantly, along with hundreds inside the building. Thousands more were trapped above the impact zone. At street level, pedestrians froze. Some assumed it was an accident, perhaps a small commuter plane. But the fireball erupting from the tower told another story. Office workers inside dialed 911, describing blocked stairwells and thick smoke. Helicopters circled overhead, broadcasting images live across the world. 9:03 a.m. The second impact. United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower between floors 77 and 85. The site was broadcast live on television. The impact tilted the building slightly before it steadied, but flames burst from both sides. Now the world knew. America was under attack. Inside the towers. In the North Tower, thousands above the 93rd floor were trapped with no way down. Temperatures soared to extreme levels. Some broke windows in desperation. Dozens were seen jumping, their final moments captured in haunting images. In the South Tower, conditions were different. The plane had struck lower, but stairwells below the impact zone remained passable. Quick decisions meant survival. Many workers began evacuating immediately, even as announcements urged them to stay. 9:37 a.m. The Pentagon. American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the western wall of the Pentagon at 530 miles per hour. Offices disintegrated. Flames consumed entire sections. Smoke rose from America's military headquarters as employees crawled through damaged walls. 9:59 a.m. Collapse of the South Tower. 56 minutes after being struck, the South Tower fell. The collapse began at the impact floors, pancaking downward in less than 11 seconds. The roar was deafening. Dust and debris swallowed lower Manhattan. Thousands ran, as if chased by a storm. Firefighters and police officers, who had rushed upward, never returned. 10:03 a.m. Flight 93. Let's roll. United Flight 93's passengers had learned, via calls to loved ones, of the other hijackings. Realizing their fate, they organized a counteraction. Todd Beamer, Mark Bingham, Tom Burnett, and others charged the cockpit. Their final act forced the plane down in a Pennsylvania field. All 44 on board died. But the hijackers never reached their intended target, believed to be either the U.S. Capitol or the White House. 10:28 a.m. Collapse of the North Tower. After burning for 102 minutes, the North Tower fell. The once familiar twin pillars of the Manhattan skyline were gone, replaced by a mountain of rubble, steel, and dust. By 11 a.m., Lower Manhattan was unrecognizable. Bridges and tunnels were closed. Survivors crossed rivers on foot or by ferry, covered in dust. Hospitals prepared for a flood of casualties. But few came. Most who remained inside never made it out. Inside the chaos. Firefighters and police. 343 firefighters, 60 police officers, and 8 paramedics died that day. Many had reached high floors, guiding civilians downward. Battalion Chief Oriel Palmer's voice over the radio at the 78th floor of the South Tower was calm, almost routine. "We're on 78, numerous injured. We need 2 lines up here." Minutes later, he was gone. The last moments of Cantor Fitzgerald. Cantor Fitzgerald, a bond trading firm, occupied the 101st to 105th floors of the North Tower. All 658 employees present that morning died. Families later recalled desperate phone calls. "We're trapped. The smoke is terrible. I love you." Their loss was the largest of any company that day. Rick Rescorla's evacuation. In the South Tower, Rick Rescorla of Morgan Stanley defied orders and forced a full evacuation. His military training told him the building wasn't safe. Singing songs through a bullhorn to calm employees, he guided nearly 2,700 people out. He returned inside to help others and never emerged. The Pentagon's survivors. Inside the Pentagon, workers like April Gallup crawled through fire and debris with her infant son. Others carried the injured on their backs, forming human chains in the dark. Firefighters fought flames for hours, determined not to lose the entire structure. Families at home. Across the country, phones rang with last words. Brian Sweeney, a passenger on Flight 175, left a voicemail for his wife. "I want you to know that I absolutely love you. I want you to do good, go have some fun. I'll see you when you get here." In Manhattan, children in classrooms watched smoke rise from the windows. Some waited in vain at school doors for parents who never came. In firehouses, alarms kept ringing long after the crews had left for the towers. Their trucks remained parked outside, never returning. The collapse of a city. When both towers fell, nearly 10 million tons of rubble blanketed the area. Fires burned for 99 days. Toxic dust. A mix of asbestos, glass, and chemicals. Coated streets and lungs. Thousands of survivors and first responders would later suffer from cancers and respiratory diseases, the second wave of 9/11-related health issues. Ground Zero became both a rescue site and a memorial. Workers dug through steel beams 70 feet high, hoping to find life. Very few survivors were pulled out after the morning of September 12th. The city became a portrait of grief, plastered with missing posters on every wall. The hours and days after. When the dust settled, America was in shock. Airports closed, financial markets shut down, and the country entered an unprecedented silence. Ground Zero. Rescuers from across the nation poured into New York. Firefighters, police, construction workers, and volunteers dug through twisted beams in search of survivors. They called the site simply the Pile. Hope flickered for days, but by September 12th, almost no one else was found alive. Fires smoldered beneath the rubble for more than 3 months. The smell of smoke and melted metal lingered over Manhattan, becoming a permanent reminder. The missing. Walls around the city became covered with flyers. Faces of husbands, wives, children, grandparents. All missing. Families wandered hospitals, clutching photos, asking, "Have you seen her? Have you seen him?" Slowly, the truth set in. Most would never come home. A nation responds. Shutting down the skies. For the first time in U.S. history, the FAA grounded every civilian flight. Thousands of planes landed wherever they could. Small Canadian towns like Gander, Newfoundland, suddenly housed thousands of stranded travelers. An act of kindness that later inspired the Broadway musical Come From Away. Presidential leadership. By evening, President George W. Bush addressed the nation from the Oval Office. None of us will ever forget this day, yet we go forward to defend freedom and all that is good and just in our world. 3 days later, standing at ground zero with a bullhorn, Bush told rescuers, "I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who caused this destruction will hear all of us soon." The crowd erupted in chants of USA. Global reactions. The world responded with solidarity. Vigils were held in London, Paris, Berlin, and Sydney. NATO invoked Article 5 for the first time, declaring that an attack on one ally was an attack on all. Even rivals like Russia and Iran offered condolences. The War on Terror. Afghanistan. On October 7, 2001, the United States and its allies invaded Afghanistan, targeting al-Qaeda and the Taliban regime that sheltered them. This conflict became the longest in U.S. history, lasting 2 decades. The Patriot Act. Signed in October 2001, the Patriot Act expanded government surveillance powers. Supporters called it essential for security. Critics warned of reduced personal freedoms. Debates about privacy, liberty, and safety began, and continue to this day. Homeland Security. In 2003, the Department of Homeland Security was created. Airports added strict screening, body scanners, and shoe checks. Millions of travelers every year are still reminded of September 11th in every security line. Cultural memory and legacy. Memorials and museums. In New York, 2 reflecting pools now sit where the towers once stood. The 9/11 Memorial and Museum honors the nearly 3,000 killed. At the Pentagon, a memorial of benches marks each life lost. In Shanksville, Pennsylvania, a wall curves along the path of Flight 93. The arts and media. Songs, films, and documentaries tried to capture the grief. Bruce Springsteen's The Rising became an anthem of resilience. Films like United 93 and World Trade Center told stories of courage and loss. Writers and poets turned personal tragedy into collective memory. The children of 9/11. More than 100 babies were born after September 11th to mothers who had lost husbands that day. These children grew up never knowing their fathers, yet carrying their stories. Many became advocates, speakers, and volunteers, ensuring the world never forgets. Health and the second wave. Thousands of firefighters, police, and volunteers breathed in toxic dust at ground zero. Years later, many developed cancers and lung diseases. The World Trade Center Health Program was created to support them, but debates over funding became another chapter of the story. Comedian Jon Stewart famously fought in Congress to secure permanent health care for 9/11 responders, reminding lawmakers. They did their jobs with courage, grace, tenacity, humility. 18 years later, do yours. 20 years later. By 2021, the U.S. marked 20 years since the attacks. Presidents, survivors, and families gathered in silence. Bells tolled at the exact moments of impact. Names were read aloud, one by one, reminding the world that every statistic hides a life. A mother, a father, a friend. The Taliban's return to power in Afghanistan that same year cast a shadow over the legacy of the longest conflict, raising painful questions. What changed? What was gained? What was lost? Reflection and legacy. September 11th was not just an American tragedy. It was a human one. It showed how quickly ordinary life can shatter, but also how deeply people can rise to extraordinary courage. Firefighters running upward as thousands rushed down. Passengers on Flight 93 choosing to protect others at great personal risk. Strangers carrying strangers through smoke-filled streets. These moments of humanity shine as brightly as the towers once did. The attacks reshaped global politics, tightened security, and altered daily routines. But the deeper lesson is about unity. The realization that in our most vulnerable moments, compassion and courage define us more than fear or destruction. As time passes, we must ask ourselves, have we truly learned the lessons of that day? Do we carry forward the empathy shown in the hours after? or have we let division replace it? September 11th is not just about remembering loss. It is about the choices we make now. How we honor the fallen, support the living, and build a world so that such a tragedy never happens again. Watch more interesting stories. Subscribe to our channel.